21st Precinct, Sergeant Burns. I can hear you. What's the trouble there? Is she all alone? How much is on the clock? $2 and what? Well, why can't you pay it? Where'd she lose it? Where?
You are in the muster room at the
21st Precinct, the nerve center.
A call is coming through.
You will follow the action taken
Pursuant to that call, from this minute until the final report is written in the 124 room at the 21st Precinct.
All right, you're driving a hack. Drive her into the station house. We'll talk about it when you get here. Just drive around the station. We'll get it all settled here.
21st Precinct. It's just lines on a map of the city of New York. Most of the 173,000 people wedged into the 9/10 of a square mile between Fifth Avenue and the East River wouldn't know if you asked them that they lived or worked in the 21st. Whether they know it or not, the security of their persons, their homes, and their property is my job. My job and the job of the 160 patrolmen, 11 sergeants, and 4 lieutenants of whom I'm the boss. My name is Kennelly, Frank Kennelly. I'm captain in command of the 21st.
What makes a city? Not buildings, not subways, not business. People make a city. From dawn to midnight, from midnight to dawn, the rich and the poor and the good and the bad pour their lives together and stir up the city. As in the 21st, a little over 2 weeks ago.
I was working my 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. tour. At 1:55 a.m., following patrol, I returned to the station house. In the muster room, Sergeant Burns was on the boxes. Lieutenant Snyder was the desk officer. A hack driver and a well-dressed, very pretty young woman, about 20, stood in front of the railing. I walked around behind the desk to make an entry in the blotter that I had returned from patrol. What's doing, Sergeant?
Nothing much, sir. It's been a quiet tour.
Look, I got no time to stand here and discuss the pros and cons. There was $2.40 on the clock. Now, all I want is my money, that's all.
I'd pay you if I had it. I told you I lost my wallet.
Hello, Lieutenant. Captain.
Lady, just give me the $2.40.
She says she lost her wallet.
Well, why couldn't she look and see if she had her wallet before she got in my cab at Idlewild Airport, Lieutenant? Why'd she have to wait until we get to 80th Street and Park Avenue before she finds it out?
I looked in my purse for a cigarette, and I noticed the wallet was missing. I told you I'd give you a tip.
Lady, when I turn the cab in at 4 o'clock in the morning, the boss wants cash for what's on the clock. He don't want check.
I don't have the cash. I lost my wallet.
Why do I get all the sad stories? I've never seen it.
Sergeant Burns. Where were you going from Idlewild, miss?
She said Penn State.
All right, 19. What's your name, miss?
Elizabeth Earlwood.
Do you have any identification?
No, it was all in my wallet, Lieutenant. I've got my checkbook, though.
I'm not interested.
What's your name?
Swinagi, Joe Swinagi.
Well, now, look, Joe, these things happen.
But always to me. Why?
Who are you, anyway? I'm Captain Kennelly.
Well, beg your pardon. I'd just like to know who I'm talking to.
You're wasting time here.
Not news to me, Captain.
I didn't want to come here.
I'd suggest that you take the young lady's check and get back on the job. The only other thing to do is file a complaint against her.
I got a good mind to do just that.
What does that mean? Have me arrested?
21st Precinct, Sergeant. Do you, know anybody around here that you can call and get the money from?
Well, you take your meal now.
I don't know a soul, not a soul. I'm from out of town.
You wouldn't want to spend the morning in court, would you, Joe?
I want to spend the morning sleeping. Give me the check. Let me get out of here.
Oh, I really appreciate it. You don't know how much I appreciate
Here,
it.
miss, you want a pen?
Oh, yes, thanks. Thanks a lot. How do you want it made out?
Just the cash. That's good enough.
It was $2.40. I'll make it for $4. That'll be a good tip for all the trouble I caused you.
It's up to you, lady. Yeah?
You know I lost my wallet and I don't have a cent of cash. I couldn't make it for $10 and you give me $6 change.
No, you couldn't. Now, listen, just make it for $2.40. Just give it to me and let me get out of here.
All right, there wasn't any harm in asking.
Plenty of harm.
21st
That's
Precinct.
enough already.
Sergeant Burns. Yes, sir? Hold on. Captain Kennelly, the division lieutenant for you.
Okay.
Now, lean up against the desk and write it, sir.
I'll take it here.
Yes, sir.
Captain Kennelly.
Yes, Dev.
No, I can't spare him.
Well, I'm short 2 sergeants now. Waters went sick yesterday and Klein's on vacation. Oh, I can't.
No.
Oh, I know there's no harm in asking. All right, Deb. That's okay. So long. How is Sergeant Waters, Captain? Did you hear from him? No, he's better. His wife called last night. Oh, that's good to hear.
I'm really sorry to cause so much trouble. I made it out for $4 anyway. Here.
Braxton, Pennsylvania. Where's Braxton, Pennsylvania?
It's near Philadelphia. Lieutenant, did I get the pen from you?
That's right.
Look, thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Well, can I go now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'll be seeing you.
Goodbye. I can't blame him, I guess.
21st Precinct, Sergeant Burns.
But I couldn't help it.
Singleton.
Do you live in Braxton?
You want
Yes,
to
sir,
talk
that's
to him?
right.
Put him on here.
Near Philadelphia.
What are you doing in New York?
Lieutenant Snyder.
Well, it's a long story.
Listen, you put unidentified on the UF95 tag for that DOA. The aided card says he was registered into the hotel as Herbert Rowden. Now, which is right?
Miss, walk across the hall there to my office, will you?
Over there?
Yes, that's
The
right.
cards in his pocket showed what name?
And just have a seat in there.
Yes, sir, if you want.
Now, how do you spell it? E-L-R-L-E.
Oh, Sergeant, did you check and see if her wallet was turned in on at Idlewild?
All right,
Just
we
came in a minute before you did.
Straighten it out.
All right, I'll be in my office. Yes, sir. Elizabeth Earlwood. How do you spell that?
Erlwood.
What were you doing out at Idlewild?
Well, you see, I came to New York on the train with a friend of mine. She left on a plane for Europe at midnight. I was going back to Philadelphia.
All right, that's okay.
I'm sorry. And I put her in the plane and took a cab to go back to Penn Station. When I opened my pocketbook for a cigarette, I noticed my wallet was missing. That's all there is to it. I couldn't help it.
Did you have your pocketbook open at the airport?
Oh, yes, several times. I bought her a couple of magazines and we went to the bar and had a drink. Several times.
You didn't miss it before you got in the cab.
No, sir. I told you I was going to smoke a cigarette.
You
and...
were on your way to Penn Station to get a train to Philadelphia?
Yes, sir. That's right, to Philadelphia. Then I'd have to change there for Braxton. That's on the other side of Philadelphia, on the main line. I really couldn't help it. I can't blame the cab driver for being mad. He's entitled to his money, but I couldn't help it. I didn't want to lose my wallet.
Yes, I know. Do you have any friends in New York?
Well, there are a couple of people. Girls I went to school with, but I wouldn't know where they are exactly.
Would you like to call your home?
Oh, I don't think that would be a good idea at this time of night. You see, I didn't even tell my mother and father I was coming to New York. They'd get scared to death. She's nervous anyway. And he's probably not home. He stays in town a lot. Philadelphia, that is. Grover C. Earlwood, did you ever hear of him?
No.
Oh, he's a pretty big man.
Well, if you don't call him, you have to do something.
All I want to do is get to Penn Station and get on the train, that's all. I had a return ticket, but that was in my wallet, too.
How much money did you have?
Oh, I don't know, $35 or $40, something like that, not much.
Excuse me. Captain Kennelly.
Sergeant Burns, Captain. I called both the 103rd and the Port Authority police at Idlewild. There's been no wallet turned in.
Okay, thanks. Well, your wallet hasn't been turned in, not as yet.
Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. Look at me. I look terrible, don't I?
Well, there's no reason for you to have been crying.
I'll be all right. I just had the money to get home, that's all I need. About $10. Captain, would you cash a check for me for $10?
Miss,
$10, that's all. I could get a train home and pay the cab fare from the Braxton station to my house. That's all it would take, $10.
look, Miss Earlwood, if I cashed a check for everyone who walked in the door...
Good, I promise it's good.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
I'll leave my watch with you. Look, it's a beautiful watch. My father gave it to me. 17 jewels and a gold case. You keep it until you're sure about the check.
All right, never mind the watch, Miss Earlwood. Just write out the check. I'll cash it for you.
Oh, thanks. You don't have any idea how this saves my life. It really saves my life.
I took the young woman's check and gave her $10 from my own pocket. She powdered her nose, thanked me profusely, and left the station house at 2:20 a.m. The rest of the tour was quiet. At 8 a.m., I turned out the platoon for the day tour, signed the blotter, and left the precinct to go off duty. It was a heavy week. We were plagued by a series of housebreakings. There was a 3-alarm fire, 2 armed robberies, a rash of car thefts, and a traffic fatality during the next few days, all in addition to the ordinary occurrences. On Friday morning at 8 a.m., I arrived in the precinct for my day tour. I turned out the platoon, then returned to my office to read the reports and communications which had accumulated. These I signed while I spoke to George Underwood, the precinct youth patrolman,
in regard to his plans for a championship playoff among softball teams from the various playgrounds in the precinct. About 10:30, I had finished the paperwork and interviews. I walked out into the muster room.
21st Precinct, Sergeant Burns. Oh, Rolf, walk around to 346 and see the super. City Marshal's on his way to serve an eviction notice. Super says the tenant might give a little trouble. He's a fighter. Yeah, that's right. Okay, let me know.
What have we got, Sergeant?
Nothing much, Captain. Pretty quiet. Hey, Captain, you've got a minute?
Yeah, sure. Hello, man. Hi.
Hello, Lieutenant.
Wait. What's the trouble? Listen, Captain, did you take a check from a girl a few days ago? A kid 18 to 20, honey-colored hair, very pretty. Yes, that's right. For $10. How did you know about it? I just got a call from downtown. We were notified by the Pennsylvania State Police. It was forged. You're kidding. No. Your bank will notify you today, I guess. The girl's been papering the town with those checks. Put out a couple of dozen of them. How do you like that? The forgery squad got in the whole list this morning. Somebody down there recognized your name. They phoned up and asked if it was you. It's me. Who is she? Do they know? No. She's really laying down that paper all over New York. Just small amounts, but she sure picked a good name to forge. Mrs. Elizabeth Hance Earlwood. Big name in Philadelphia. I see how she does it. I do. That kid sold me a bill of goods. She came in here with a real sad story about losing her money. Yeah. That's what she's been using, according to the forgery squad. Same story. The bank down there just threw their hands in the air when all these checks started showing up. She sold me. She really sold me. Yes, sir. Sweet, innocent, and in trouble. You can see how she hung that paper all over town if she sold you, Captain. Just next time, be careful. No, man. Next time, I'll take the watch. An alarm was put out for the young woman who forged the name of Elizabeth Hance Earlwood to more than 24 checks and passed them on various merchants and individuals in the city of New York. But the alarm didn't stop her. In the next few days, a dozen more such checks were refused payment by the bank at Braxton, Pennsylvania. In New York, the investigation was handled by detectives of the Forgery Squad, one of the several organizations of specialized investigators who operate on a citywide basis from the central office. In the meantime, the tour-by-tour activities continued in the 21st Precinct. On Saturday, we had a bad homicide. On Sunday morning, a 7-year-old girl on her way to church was struck by a hit-and-run driver on First Avenue. Both her legs were broken, but she was more worried about her dress. The house burglaries continued. No leads there. Monday morning at 11:40, I returned to the precinct from patrol. In the muster room, Sergeant Burns was on the boxes. Lieutenant Snyder was on duty as desk officer. Hello, Red. Captain.
Hello, Captain.
What's doing, Sergeant?
Nothing much, sir. It's a quiet tour. A couple of messages for you.
No, thanks.
That Mr. Escher wouldn't leave his first name. He said he'd call back.
No, I know who he is. Oh, is this one Congressman Thompson?
Yes, sir, that's right. He said he'd be at that number until 2:30 p.m. Do you want to sign the blotter, Captain? I've got the entry made.
Yeah. All right, Red.
21st Precinct, Sergeant Burns.
What's that new pen, Captain? The ink really flowed. All right.
17.
Thanks, Captain. Sergeant, see if you can get Congressman Tarbin back for me.
Yes, sir.
I'll take it in my office.
Where may I find Captain Kennelly, please?
Over here, ma'am. You'll have to make inquiries at the desk.
That's all right, Lieutenant. I'm Captain Kennelly.
Oh, how do you do? I'm Mrs. Elizabeth Hance Earlwood.
Of Philadelphia?
Oh, you know me?
Well, let's say I've heard of you.
I'd like to talk to you, Captain.
In here, Mrs. Earlwood.
Thank you.
Have a chair.
Thank you.
Well, somebody's been using your name in vain, Mrs. Earlwood.
That's what I want to talk to you about, Captain Kennelly. Oh, how do you pronounce it? Kennelly or Kennelly?
Kennelly.
There's a Mrs. Conwood who served with me on the Philadelphia Eleemosynary Board. She was a Kennelly. Mrs. Byron Conwood, is she your family?
No, I'm afraid not.
Perhaps it was Kennedy.
What can I do for you, Mrs. Earlwood? You know, I'm not handling the investigation. I'm just another victim in this case.
Yes, and it's too bad. I know you were just performing an act of kindness. You were being a good Samaritan.
Well, I was trying to be.
You were. And I want to make restitution of the $10 you lost.
You're under no obligation to do that, Mrs. Earlwood.
I think I am. It was $10, wasn't it?
Those checks were forged on your bank account. The responsibility belongs to the first endorser.
The responsibility belongs to me, Captain. You see, I know who forged all those checks.
Who?
Well...
Oh, excuse me.
Of course.
Captain Kennelly.
Captain, I have Congressman Tarpon for you.
Oh, all right. I'll just be a minute, Mrs. Elwood.
That's all right.
Hello, Frank.
Oh, I tried to reach you yesterday, Congressman.
Yes, I know. I'm sorry I didn't get back to you. What can I do for you, Frank?
Well, just a little information, that's all, Congressman. Do you know Father Cotella of St. Agnes?
Yes?
Well, he has a student he's very interested in. The boy finished his first year at CCNY, and he's made excellent marks. He's right up there at the top of his class. Good athlete, nice young man. Well, there's not much money in the family. They have a little hardware store. The boy wants to get into West Point. He'd be good. Father Cotella knows there are competitive examinations before you make your appointments. He just wants to find out how to go about getting him on the list. I told him I'd call you.
Sure, Frank. I'll have my administrative assistant get in touch with Father Costello, all right?
Fine. You want the boy's name?
No, not yet. We'll get all the information on him from Father Costello. Well, thanks for calling, Frank.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Once a good Samaritan.
Oh, it's all part of the job, Miss Elwood. You said you knew who forged those checks.
Yes, I do.
Who?
My daughter.
Oh?
Don't look so surprised, Captain. I have a daughter that age. My daughter, Elizabeth. So you see, it's not really forgery. Her name is Elizabeth, too. It's not really forgery.
Is her middle name Hans?
No.
Does she have an account at that bank?
No, but she has an account at the bank in Philadelphia in her own name. She has money in there, plenty of money. I deposit $50 a week to her account. I don't understand why she does it. I don't understand.
Have any officers come to see you at home, Mrs. Elwood?
Oh, yes, a very nice young detective from the Pennsylvania State Police. Very nice.
Did you tell him you suspected it was your daughter?
No.
Why not?
My husband told me not to. I wanted to tell the bank to pay the checks just to let them go through, but my husband told me not to.
You have any idea why your daughter is doing this? She's forged and passed nearly 40 checks in New York alone.
I don't know. I really don't. She's had everything all her life, everything. Not a thing she wanted we didn't give her. And she just left home all of a sudden, and the next thing we knew, the checks started. I didn't even know she was in New York.
Why did she leave home, Miss Elwood?
I don't know.
Well, there must have been a reason.
It was something with her father.
What?
Well, it's really very personal.
Miss Elwood, your personal matter isn't personal anymore. It's very public. About 40 people in New York are victims of it.
I'd rather not go into it.
I'm afraid you'll have to.
Well, I'm involved in it, too, in a manner of speaking.
Yeah?
Well, you see, my husband was away. He told us he was going to Chicago on business. The weekend came, and Liz was invited out to Wilmington for a party on Saturday night. She didn't want to go. She never wants to go, but I talked her into it. Anyway, she went. She had a very good time. After the party, the young hostess and her friends decided to go to an inn on the shore for coffee and a snack. She saw her father there.
Oh?
He was with another woman.
How old is Liz?
19. She'll be 20 in October.
And did she talk to her father?
No, luckily he didn't see her, but she came home very upset. I had no idea what the trouble was. Finally, on Monday or Tuesday, she spoke to me. Told me she'd seen him. Well, I said, Liz, I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but it's been going on for years. Your father has his friends, and I have mine. That's the way it is.
What did she say?
Nothing.
Nothing at all?
Well, as a matter of fact, I was just on my way out of the house when I told her I was late for a dinner party.
Did she leave right away?
Oh, no. In a day or so.
Do you have any idea where she's staying in New York?
No.
Oh, could she be with friends?
Well, she only has one friend here. I called her even before the check started, but she hadn't heard from Liz. Captain, that girl has had the best education money could give her. She has a car all her own, a 1952 convertible, all of her own. She has clothes, lots of clothes, and money of her own.
What made you decide to come to New York, Miss Elwood?
I wanted to find her and bring her home. That's the natural thing for a mother to do. I want to get the thing straightened out. Besides, my friends would begin to ask questions.
Does your husband know you came?
No. He'd be against it. He's afraid she'll cause a lot of trouble. He doesn't want any trouble or any scandal. He's very annoyed with Liz.
Is he?
admit I don't understand her myself. What's gotten into her? Why would she do this to me?
Well, I'm not sure I can answer that, Miss Elwood. I'm only a policeman. I took Mrs. Elwood upstairs to the 21st Detective Squad and introduced her to Lieutenant King. He called Detective Scanlon of the Forgery Squad, who was handling the squeals in this case. Detective Scanlon, along with Lieutenant King, interviewed Mrs. Elwood. As she repeated the story she told me, I went back to my office. A new alarm was put out for the young woman, and a communication to the Pennsylvania State Police advised them of the actual circumstances in the case. The next day, orders came through from the chief inspector instructing each precinct captain to accompany the patrol sergeant on cabaret inspection at the rate of no less than 2 a night until all cabarets were visited. Delegates to 2 recent conventions had complained that they were being overcharged in a few midtown nightclubs. We were instructed to look for such violations of the state liquor law and city licensing regulations as might lead to the clipping of patrons. These included the lack of a bill of fare plainly stating prices, improper lighting, and mingling of entertainers and employees with patrons.
Everything looks all right here, Captain.
Yeah. Did you take a look in the kitchen?
Yes, sir.
Are they prepared to serve food?
Yes, sir. There's a cook on the job.
All right, let's go.
We can go around the corner to the High-Low Club, Captain.
We'll see. Oh, just a second. Wait here a minute. There's someone at the bar I want to talk to.
Yes, sir. Well, it depends, honey. That depends on how you feel about it.
Excuse me.
What's on your mind?
I want to talk to the young lady.
What do you want to talk to me about?
Listen, it's a private conversation, fella. Get lost.
I'm a police officer.
Oh, excuse me.
What do you want to talk to me about?
Now, Liz, you remember.
Listen, what's the trouble anyway?
What's your name, mister?
Why do you want to know that?
Because this girl is wanted for passing 39 forged checks, that's why.
It's so, Carl. It's absolutely so.
Listen, I only met her tonight, only an hour ago.
What's your name?
Holt, Carl Holt. That's the truth. You can ask her. Isn't that the truth?
It's the truth.
Did you cash a check for her, Mr. Holt?
For me? No.
You would have, Carl. You would have. Everybody does. Even policemen. Everybody loves me.
I called Sergeant Burns over, and we took Liz Elwood and her companion to the station house. On the way in, Patrolman Novak, who had relieved Sergeant Burns on TS, told me that Lieutenant King was in. I instructed Sergeant Burns to resume his duties and went upstairs to the 21st Squad. After a few minutes of questioning, Carl Holt convinced us that he had, in fact, only met the girl that evening in another bar. He gave his address and promised to appear again if needed. Then he was allowed to go. Detective Scanlon of the Forgery Squad was called. While he was en route, Matt King and I talked to the girl.
Is that the only reason, Liz?
Well, I had to live.
If you want to call your mother, you can place a call to her.
No, I don't want to call her. I don't want to talk to her.
Well, if you don't, Liz, I do. Is this phone to TS, Matt?
That's right, yes, sir.
I haven't anything to say to her.
21st Precinct, Sergeant Burns.
This is Captain Kennelly.
Yes, sir.
Would you step in my office and look in the corner of my desk blotter? There's a note with the number of Mrs. Elizabeth Hance Irwood in Braxton, Pennsylvania.
Braxton?
Yeah, that's right. Place a collect call to Mrs. Irwood at that number.
Right away, Captain.
Right. You have a bank account of your own, Liz. Why'd you have to forge checks in your mother's name?
I don't know. Just seems like I should.
What made you?
I don't know. If I knew, I'd tell you.
You know you hurt a lot of people.
Did I? I didn't mean to.
About 40 people, including Captain Kennelly.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. You know I'm sorry, Captain.
I hope you are.
I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I just wanted to get money from people to prove they liked me, that's all. If they were willing to take a check from me, that proved they liked me, didn't it? That's all I wanted to prove.
You could have given checks on your own account to prove the same thing.
No, that's not so. It wouldn't prove the same thing. It wouldn't prove the same thing because... I don't know. It just wouldn't.
What were you doing out at Idlewild that night?
Idlewild?
Yes, the airport.
When?
When you said you didn't have money to pay the cab driver.
Oh,
What were you doing there?
I went out there just to cash a check, that's all. I thought that would be a nice place. I'm sorry I didn't realize I'd cause so much trouble. I really didn't. If that's my mother, I don't want to talk to her. I don't.
All right, I get it, man.
I won't.
Captain Kennelly.
Sergeant Burns, Captain. I have
Hello.
Captain Kennelly?
Yes, this is Captain Kennelly. We have Liz here, Mrs. Elwood.
Oh, you have? How is she? Is she all right? I want to talk to her.
Yes, she seems all right.
Not talk with her?
Liz?
No, I told you no.
I'm sorry, Miss Elwood. She won't come to the phone.
Why won't she?
Well, she just refuses, Mrs. Elwood.
Well, tell her I'll be there. Tell her I love her. Tell her I'll take the next train. Her father, too.
All right. Goodbye.
The next train.
I couldn't talk. I'm sorry. I couldn't. I'm not ashamed or anything, but I couldn't talk to her.
She said to tell you that she loves you. She and your father are taking the next train.
They won't be here.
They told the captain they would.
No, they won't. All they'll do is send money. They always send money. They think it's the same thing, but it isn't. It really isn't the same. Is it?
No, Liz. There's a big difference. All the difference in the world.
"21st Precinct, Sergeant Burns. What do you mean you were robbed? Held up? Where this happened? Where? Did he have a gun? Well, there were two men. When was this? Just now? How long ago?
And so it goes.
see what
Around
you
the
went.
clock, through the week, every day, every year. The police precinct in the city of New York is a flesh and blood merry-go-round. Anyone can catch the brass ring, or the brass ring can catch anyone.
21st Precinct, a factual account of the way the police work in the world's largest city, is presented with the official cooperation of the Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, an organization of more than 20,000 members of the Police Department, City of New York. Everett Sloan in the role of Captain Kennelly, Ken Lynch as Lieutenant King. Featured in tonight's cast were Jean Gillespie and Barbara Weeks, Wendell Holmes, Bill Zuckert, Bill Lipton, and Louis Van Ruten. Written and directed by Stanley Niss. Produced for CBS Radio by John Ives. Art Hanna speaking.
Saying Sergeant Klein. What do you mean you were robbed? Held up? So where this happened? Where? Did he have a gun? There were two men. When was this? Just now?
You are in the muster room at the 21st Precinct, the nerve center.
Where they went.
A call is coming through. You will follow the action taken pursuant to that call from this minute until the final report is written in the 124 room at the 21st Precinct.
Where are you calling from?
Where? On what floor is that? All right. You take the elevator back downstairs. The officers will be right there. They'll be right there. You just wait. Yes, ma'am.
21st Precinct. It's just lines on a map of the city of New York. Most of the 173,000 people wedged into the 9/10 of a square mile between Fifth Avenue and the East River wouldn't know if you asked them that they lived or worked in the 21st. Whether they know it or not, the security of their persons, their homes, and their property is my job. My job and the job of the 160 patrolmen, 11 sergeants, and 4 lieutenants of whom I'm the boss. My name is Kennelly, Frank Kennelly. I'm captain in command of the 21st.
What makes a city? Not buildings, not subways, not business. People make a city. From dawn to midnight, from midnight to dawn, the rich and the poor and the good and the bad pour their lives together and stir up the city. As in the 21st, sometime in a way you'd least expect.
I was working my 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. tour. It had started to rain during the night, and it was still raining at 1:15 p.m. when I came out of the luncheon meeting of the Lenox Hill Lions Club, at which I spoke on the problems of juvenile delinquency. From the lobby of the hotel, I rang in. Sergeant Klein on TS told me everything was quiet. I instructed him to send a car for me. When it came, I had the operator, Patrolman Farrell, drive me to the New Era Theater, a movie house on First Avenue. I went into the lobby and was told by the manager that Mr. Crows could be found at the back of the theater near the candy stand. I saw him in the dim light, and I walked over. A cartoon was on the screen. Hello, Mr. Crows.
Huh? Oh, Captain, how are you?
Just fine. I had a report from Sergeant Collins on the night tour that you've been having some trouble over this way.
Yeah, that's right, Captain, but I told the sergeant what was on my mind last night. I appreciate you stopping by anyway.
Well, I'm giving instructions to the men on post and in the cars here to pay special attention to the conditions.
Oh, well, thanks. Oh, just a second. Here's that scene. I get the biggest kick out of these cartoons. I don't know why. You ever see anything so funny?
Well, sure clever, all right.
Look in there, Captain. A rainy afternoon and business is just fine. You know, I got the answer to what's wrong with the picture business.
Have you?
Mm-hmm. If they make a good picture, you do business. Even on a day like this. It's simple. Make all good pictures.
How many kids, as a rule, hang out at that candy store at night, Mr. Claus?
Well, you know, it varies. Now, on a nice night or a Saturday, there's a whole gang of them. They yell and they make jokes at the people coming on their way to the theater at night. And that can scare them. I don't need my patrons scared away. Condition at the box office is bad enough, and it's not healthy for the neighborhood.
All right, Mr. Claus. We'll see what we can do about it.
Look at that rabbit. How do you like that? You know, I see a feature picture once, I'm through with it, but I can watch these cartoons 4 or 5 times a day.
Yeah, well, if the condition doesn't clear up, Mr. Claus, you just get in touch with me.
Oh, is this the cop looking for you, Captain?
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me, Captain.
Yes, Farrell?
Signal 30 just came over.
Yeah?
Hold up just around the corner at 340. I thought you might want to take a look.
Yes, I do. So long, Mr. Claus.
Thanks, Captain.
One man, no description put out yet.
All right. Let's go. I left the theater with Patrolman Farrell. It was still raining. We got into the car, and he drove around the corner to 340, a loft building. The sector car and the sergeant's car were already there. Sergeant Burns had posted his operator at the front door of the building to keep the curious out of the lobby. He held the door open and nodded as I went in. The lobby was long and narrow, the building old and grimy. At the far end of the lobby was a single old-fashioned elevator. Sergeant Burns was talking to a woman dressed in a raincoat, a woman about 35. The sector men and the patrolman on post were questioning the elevator operator several feet away. I walked to Sergeant Burns.
Do you know how much was in the envelope exactly?
Hello, Sergeant.
Well,
Captain?
there was $1,362.25.
Exactly?
Yes.
How did you know that?
I just came from the bank. It was the payroll.
Oh. Captain Kennelly, this is Miss Beatrice Parazoni.
How do you do?
Is that how you pronounce it, Parazoni?
Pleased to meet you. Yes, that's right.
She's a bookkeeper for a firm up on the 6th floor, Captain.
Hmm.
She was coming back from the bank with a payroll. A man followed her into the lobby and onto the elevator, pulled a gun, took the package. Then he forced the elevator operator to take them back down to the ground level. He got off, told him to go straight up to the top. Is that about right, Miss Parazoni?
Yes, that's right, exactly.
Did you get a description, Sergeant?
Yes, sir, as good as they could give me.
I didn't remember much. I honestly didn't. I could only look at that gun. That's all I could see.
The elevator operator not so good with the English. I called TS, gave him the best description we could get.
Good. What kind of company is it you work for?
Well, it's a place that makes optical lenses, you know, for eyeglasses.
Yeah.
It's just a small company, about 14, 15 men working in the shop and myself in the office with the boss, that's all. That was the whole payroll, $1,362.25, the whole payroll for a week.
Where's your boss? Did you tell him about it?
I stopped up on the floor to call the police. He's not there. He's out selling. He's usually in the shop in the morning and he goes out seeing customers in the afternoon.
How long have you been employed there, Miss Parazoni?
Oh, almost 10 years, between 9 and 10.
You never had anything like this happen before, did you?
Oh, no, nothing like this at all, never.
Well, it's 5 minutes after 3 now, Miss Parazoni. What time did you leave the office for the bank?
Well, it was just about 2 o'clock. On payday, I usually work all morning until I get the payroll finished, and then I write out the check, and the boss signs it before he leaves to call on customers. I had the check, and I went out to lunch. And then I was going to the bank right before it closed to come back here in time to make up the payroll for when the men go home.
You follow this pattern pretty much every week?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, you pay on the same day every week?
Oh, yes.
And do you go to the bank just about the same time?
Yes, they're usually right before it closes.
Oh, Sergeant, you ought to have the sector car and get back on patrol. We don't need them here anymore.
Yes, sir, Captain. All right, Ryan, Thomas.
I really ought to be getting upstairs and back to work, Captain. I don't know what I'm going to do about the payroll today. I don't know where I can reach the boss, and the bank is closed. It'll be a shame for the men to go home without their money. Can I go upstairs now and see if I can get it straightened out?
Well, the detectives will be here any minute, Miss Parazoni. They'll want to talk to you. I think you ought to wait down here until they come.
Captain.
Hello.
Ring in when you get back in service.
I don't see what I have to wait for the detectives for. I told you everything I know. I told you and that sergeant and the policeman there.
Yes, well, it's the detective's case. It's up to them to conduct the investigation.
I see.
Out of all people, Captain, I don't know. Why did he pick on me? The funny thing, he picked on me.
Is it?
I guess he didn't pick on me, just picked on the $1,300.
The essential duty of the uniformed force is patrol. When the criminal is unknown or has fled, it is the job of the detectives to investigate. In this, as in all similar cases, the 21st Detective Squad under the command of Lieutenant Matt King was notified by the desk officer immediately on receipt of the report. Within a few minutes, Detectives Ben Novak and Whitey Howard were on the job. Sergeant Burns opened his memorandum book and from notes he had taken for his UF-61 and unusual occurrence report, gave them the facts as he had learned them. He introduced them to the victim and to the witness, then resumed patrol. I returned to the precinct house. It was still raining, but not nearly so hard. I walked to the telephone switchboard where Sergeant Klein was on the boxes.
Hello, Captain.
Any messages, Sergeant?
No telephone messages, no, sir, but there was a communication on the teletype addressed to all precinct, division, and borough commanders. I put it on your desk.
Good. Tell Glass I'll read and sign whatever report he's got ready now.
Yes, sir.
I'll be in my office.
Yes. 21st Precinct, Sergeant Klein.
Captain Ellie. Hello.
All right, 24.
Oh, hello, Mr. Cross.
Captain, can I talk to you for a minute?
What's the matter? Are those boys at the candy store giving you trouble this early in the day?
No, I'd just like to talk to you, Captain, if I could.
Yeah, sure. Come into my office.
Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Go ahead. Have a seat, Mr. Cross.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Well, what's on your mind?
Well, Captain, I'm a curious type, you know. Like anybody else, I like a little excitement.
Go on.
But when that cop came in and told you there was a signal 30 around the corner, I got sort of interested. It's no secret what a signal 30 is. It's an armed felony, right?
That's right.
Well, anyway, I figured I'd like to see what's going on. So when you left, I got my raincoat and I walked around the corner. The cop was standing at the door of the loft building, so I couldn't get in. But I looked through the door and I saw that girl you were talking to, and from the conversation around there, I found out that she was held up for a payroll. Right?
Yes, that's right. What about it?
Well, look, it's none of my business, maybe. I feel like an idiot.
Well, you came here to tell me, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. That girl, Captain, the one that was held up, she did an awful funny thing a little while before.
Well, what do you mean?
About 2 o'clock, I was standing in the lobby there, in the lobby of the theater. It was raining outside, and I was still wondering how we were doing all the business we were doing so early in the day with the weather. But a good picture will bring him in. That's all you need.
What about the girl?
Yeah, well, I guess it was about 2 o'clock. I remember it because she had on a funny brown raincoat with a plaid pattern. You know, the one she was wearing.
Yeah.
Well, she bought a ticket and she came in the theater.
Did she?
Yeah, she did. Now, I know that's not funny in itself. I wouldn't have noticed her except for that raincoat. But I stand in the lobby a few minutes, talk to the ticket taker, go to the box office, talk to the cashier, shake hands with a few patrons.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's about 2:10, maybe 2:15, and I see this raincoat walking out again. Well, I figure this is funny. So I stop her in the lobby and I say, "What's the matter, lady? Did you see the picture before? If you saw the picture before, I'd be glad to give you your money back. We don't want any dissatisfied patrons."
Now, what'd she say?
She said, no, she didn't see the picture before. So I told her, "Look, lady, if it's not the kind of picture you think it is, or you don't like it, let me give you a free pass. You can come back some other time. You know, we do these things for public relations." So she says, "No, everything is all right. She doesn't want her money back or anything like that." Anyways, while I'm standing there talking to her, a man walks out of the theater, and he walks right past without saying a word. Well, she sort of looks at him like she was going to say something, like she knows him, but he walked out, and he didn't even turn to her.
Yes?
Well, that's all.
Is it?
Yeah, except that she left. Well, I see I shouldn't butt in anybody else's business.
Sit down, Mr. Claus.
You think there's something to it, Captain? I thought there was something to it. That's why I came over here, but I can't figure out what.
What did the man look like?
Well, that's kind of hard to say.
Was he tall?
Oh, I couldn't say he was exactly tall, but I couldn't say short either. Medium, maybe.
You sure it was the same girl?
I'm positive. I never forget a face, and I never forget a raincoat. In the whole city of New York, there couldn't be 2 raincoats like that, at least in this neighborhood. Listen, Captain, you think there's something to it? You think I hit on something?
Maybe.
For what? What?
Mr. Crows, it's just like in your business. They're not all good pictures. Some of them we have to clear up. The inconsistency of witnesses and their honest mistakes are major problems to law enforcement officers. The whole truth is not an easy thing at which to arrive. In this case, the victim of the robbery, Miss B. Parazzone, made no mention of stopping at the movie theater en route to the bank. The theater manager said he saw her there. This discrepancy could be either a mistake of identity, a coincidence, or of great importance. I asked Mr. Crows if he would mind telling his story again. He agreed, and I took him upstairs to the 21st Detective Squad on the second floor. In my presence, he repeated the events as they occurred. Lieutenant King questioned him in great detail.
When you saw her in the lobby, do you remember what kind of hat she had on?
Well, it wasn't a hat exactly, Lieutenant. It was a bandana-like, a handkerchief over her head. It was raining. You know, lots of girls wear those things when it rains.
And you couldn't see what color hair she had?
No, but it was the same girl. Take my word for it. It was the same girl.
Was she carrying anything in the theater?
What do you mean?
You mean a package or a pocketbook, anything like that?
Yeah, she was carrying a pocketbook.
Anything else?
An umbrella. She had an umbrella.
What kind of umbrella?
What do you mean, what kind of umbrella?
What color was it? What kind of handle did it have?
Oh, well, I don't remember those things, Lieutenant. I didn't take that much notice of it. When you looked through the door at the building and you saw her standing there talking to me, Mr. Crows, did she have the umbrella in her hand then? Well, I don't remember seeing it, Captain. Maybe she put it down someplace. I don't remember. She might have had it.
Mm-hmm. All right, Mr. Crows. Thanks a lot.
Look, I don't know. Maybe I'm just shooting my mouth off. I don't even know what it all means. Probably just wasting your time and my time, too. What am I doing here? I should be over there thinking up ways to promote that stiff I've got opening on Monday.
You're not wasting our time, Mr. Crows. We've got to consider every angle.
Well, that's what I figured.
Oh, thanks a lot, Mr. Crows.
That's all right.
We'll keep an eye on that candy store.
I'd appreciate that, Captain.
Novak. Ben Novak.
Yeah, Lieutenant?
Come in here a minute, will you?
Yes, sir.
What do you think, Matt? I don't know. She could have had a good reason for stopping in the movie. If it was her.
Yes, Lieutenant.
Shut the door, will you? On this robbery this afternoon, Ben, how close did you question the girl, the victim?
Hello, Captain. Ben? Well, like I told you, she accounted for her time to the minute. Says she left the office about 5 minutes to 2. She said she went down to the restaurant and had a sandwich. And then she went to the bank and started back for the office with the payroll.
Did she say anything about any stops in between?
No, sir.
She couldn't have forgotten about making a stop someplace, could she?
No, sir. I went over it with her 3 or 4 times.
She was pretty hazy on the description of the guy, wasn't she?
Nothing definite. She said she was pretty scared. All she could see was the gun.
How about the elevator boy?
Well, I couldn't get much out of him. His English is pretty slim. Hernandez will be in at 6 o'clock. I'm going to see if I can get him to ride up there with me. Man lives on 106th Street. Hernandez can talk to him in Spanish, and maybe we can find out something that way.
Yeah, that's a good idea. How'd you leave it with this girl?
Well, I told her we might want her to take a look through some mugs in the Rogues Gallery, see if she could pick out the man.
Mm-hmm. When did you say you might do this?
I said I might call her this afternoon. She said she'd be willing to ride downtown with me after she got finished work.
Did you talk to her boss then?
Yes, sir.
What did he say about her?
He says she's been there about 10 years. She's a good bookkeeper. He says she practically runs his business when he's away.
Mm-hmm.
She's 36 years old. She lives with a married sister up in Washington Heights. Well, what's the deal, Lieutenant? What's this all about?
She may not have told you a straight story about what happened after she left the office.
No?
What'd you call her, Ben? Tell her you want her to take a look at some of the mugs.
When, after she gets finished work?
No. I want to get it straight right now. I left the detective squad and walked downstairs through the back room where Patrolman Glass, the 124 man, was posting the latest teletype alarms. I saw Sergeant Waters come in the front door as I walked into the muster room. I called him aside and told him of an order that had come through assigning to the precinct a patrolman who had just been flopped after 8 years in the 10th Detective District. The man would be in Sergeant Waters' platoon. We conferred for a few minutes regarding the proper assignment for this man, whether he should be given a fixed post or made recorder in a sector car. We looked over his departmental record and discussed the mental effect that emotion might have on the performance of his duties as a patrolman. It was decided to put him on post number 3. Sergeant Waters went into the locker room to change to his uniform. Other men of the night tour were coming into the station house. I walked over to TS. 21st Precinct, Sergeant Klein.
Yes, sir, Captain.
That's all right. Go ahead. Take the call.
Who? Somebody's kidding you, mister. It's the 21st Precinct of the Police Department.
All right.
Yes, Captain.
Get me division, will you, Sergeant?
Yes, sir.
No. Hold it a minute.
I didn't know we were coming here.
Just a second now, miss. I've got to call upstairs.
I thought we were going downtown, look over some pictures.
We are, yeah, but I've got to check something here first about the car. Sergeant, could you ring upstairs for me?
Yeah, sure, Ben.
Hello, Miss Tarazone.
Oh, hello.
Well, are you feeling better now?
Oh, yes, a lot.
Well, who do you want up there, Ben?
Lieutenant King.
Is Lieutenant King there? This is Sergeant Klein on CS. Ben Novak wants to talk
Has
to
got
him.
any idea yet who that hold-up man was?
Well, the detectives are handling it now, miss.
Oh.
Lieutenant King is on his way downstairs, Ben.
Oh, good.
here he comes now. I just called up for you, Lieutenant.
Yep. Hi, Captain. Hello, man.
Lieutenant, this is Miss Beatrice Parazzoni. She was the victim in that holdup before.
Oh, yes. How do you do, Miss Parazzoni?
We're on our way downtown to look over some mugs to see if she can identify the man. How's the car? Is it tied up?
I sent Whitey up to the 23rd to pick up a fellow that we're holding there. He'll be back in a minute. Can you wait?
Have you got time, Miss Parazzoni?
Yes, I guess so. How long do you think it'll take downtown to look at the pictures in it?
Well, there's a lot of pictures, isn't there, Captain? Yeah, plenty.
Well, I'll call my sister. She's expecting me home for dinner.
Oh, I think you'll be home for dinner, all right.
We kind of early.
Now, according to Detective Novak, you said you went downstairs about 2 o'clock or 5 minutes after. You went to a restaurant, had a sandwich for lunch, then went to the bank. You got the payroll and started back at the office. That's what she said she told you. Is that right, then?
Yes, sir, that's what she said.
Well, that's what I did then.
I just wanted to get it straight. How long has your boss been in business there, Miss Parazzoni?
He started just before the war.
Have you been with him all that time?
Well, practically, Captain. I came in 1943.
You live with your sister, is that right?
Yes, that's right, up Morrison Heights.
She and her husband.
And their boy. They have a boy 6.
How old are you?
36?
You ever married?
No, sir.
What do you do when you're not working, Miss Parazzoni?
That's sort of a personal question.
Well, maybe. I'm just a curious type.
Nothing much.
You have a boyfriend?
I don't think I have to answer that, do I, Captain?
Well, it's up to you.
What do you want to know all about me for? I'm beginning to resent this.
Well, when something like a robbery happens, he wants to know all about everything. Do you have a boyfriend?
No, sir.
Captain, are you going to turn out the platoon? Yes, right now. They come marching right out here, Miss. Captain, can we wait in your office for a minute? Yeah, sure. Go ahead. All right. Come on, this way, Miss Parazzoni. Then, yes, sir. We'll be just a few minutes. Platoon! Forward! You want to say anything to them, Captain? Yes. Platoon! Up! Left! Right! Right! Left! Up! Report, second platoon. Platoon inspector, sir. Roll call. Ahern? Yes. Coley? Yes. Eisman? Yes. Rock? Yes. Sotto? Yes. Nelson? Yes. As the roll was being called, I realized what course Lieutenant King was taking with the hold-up victim, Beatrice Parazzoni. He wanted her brought into the station house, but without getting her unduly alarmed. Hence the excuse about the car and the interrogation in my office instead of upstairs in the detective squad. He had timed it perfectly. I spoke to the platoon and instructed the sector men and men on post to correct the condition which existed at the candy store near the New Era Theater and to watch for similar problems at other movie houses in the precinct. I read the alarm concerning the hold-up man wanted for the robbery in the precinct that afternoon. All right, Sergeant. Post the platoon. Platoon. Right. Right. Forward. Right. I'll be in my office, Sergeant. Yes. Matt? Oh, come in, Captain. I want to get at these reports here. That's all right. We're just talking. You're sure we're not disturbing you here, Captain? No. Go right ahead. Ben, do you want to check on the car?
Okay, Lieutenant.
Close the door, will you?
Yes, sir.
What else do you do in your spare time, Miss Parazzoni?
Well, I read, and I sit with a baby when my sister and her husband go out. And I like to go to a concert once in a while. I like music.
What else?
Nothing much else.
Movies? Do you like movies?
Sure, once in a while.
When do you go? At nights?
Yeah, nice. I work in the daytime except Saturday and Sunday. The movies are usually too crowded on Saturdays and Sundays. There's other things to do.
You ever go in the daytime?
No.
Then why did you go today?
What do you mean, today? Who said I went to the movies today?
Did you?
Well, yeah, for a little while.
Now, wait a minute, just a second. I don't understand this. Just when did you go to the movies?
When I left the office.
You mean at 2 o'clock?
Yes, that's right.
You didn't say anything about that to anybody before?
Well, I didn't think it was important.
Turning out to be important, isn't it?
Yes?
Then why didn't you think it was important before?
I don't know. I just didn't think so, that's all.
What was the name of the man you met there?
Where?
At the movies.
I didn't meet any man.
Supposing I told you were seen with a man there.
All right. I knew you'd find out. He said you wouldn't, but I knew you'd find out.
Sure. We find out everything, don't we, Captain?
Most of it.
I didn't want to do it. I really didn't. I was afraid, and it wasn't right, and I didn't want to do it, but he said it wouldn't hurt my boss or me, only the insurance company. Nobody would find out about it.
He was wrong, wasn't he?
Yes, he was wrong.
Why did you meet him in the theater?
He wanted me to tell him how much was in the payroll.
What's his name?
Jack Curl. Oh, how you can get fooled. Sure can get fooled. He sounded so nice when I first met him.
Where was that?
On my vacation in the mountains.
Where, at the hotel?
Yes, that's right. I took my 2 weeks and I went away. I didn't expect to meet any man. All I wanted to do was get a little country air, a little sunshine, that's all. But he was there, and we danced, and we went boating, and we swam together. I didn't even go up there with any intention of meeting a man. Maybe I used to, but I got over that. It was really very nice, very nice. And then when I came back to the city, he took my telephone number. I never expected to hear from him, really.
But you did.
Yes, he called, and we started to see each other in the city. You know, he'd come over, and we'd go to a movie, take a walk, something like that.
How long ago was this?
Well, I got back from my vacation 3 weeks ago. And last Sunday night, we took a bus ride. It was so hot, we just had to get out someplace. We went up to Fort Tryon Park, and we sat on a bench up there. I could see that he had something on his mind. I thought he was going to ask me to marry him. That's what I thought. I really thought that. And then he finally told me what it was.
This?
Yes, I was so surprised. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't say a word. I didn't know he was that kind of guy. He was so nice.
Well, then why did you go ahead with it?
Oh, I wasn't going to. I told him no. And then he said all he wanted the money for was just to get married.
Is that why you did it, so he'd marry you?
No, I don't think I would have married him. I just did it because he wanted the money so bad. That's all. I wouldn't have married him ever, believe me.
Weren't you still afraid, Bea?
Yes.
Well, then why did you go through with it?
Oh, I don't know. I guess because he was so nice to me. At least for a month, I had a good time. I figured I owed him something, that's all.
Where does he live?
I don't know. He never would tell me. Some hotel, I think.
Is Jack Curley his real name?
I don't know. I think so.
Where can we find him?
Well, he was supposed to meet me tonight.
Where?
In a bar on Broadway, way uptown, 8:30. Well, I got to thinking. I think that all he wanted was the money from this. I think he made the date just so I'd go through with this today. I don't think he's going to show up. I don't think I'll ever see him again.
You'll see him again. Maybe not tonight, but I guarantee you'll see him again. "21st Precinct, Sergeant Klein. Who's dead? Who? She was killed. Ah. Where is it? Where? 88 East what? East 70th. Who is this calling? What's your name? Doris what? All right. Just stay right where you are. The officers will be there right away. Yeah, right away. Oh, don't worry about it.
So
They
it
take
goes.
care of it.
Around the clock, through the week, every day, every year. A police precinct in the city of New York is a flesh and blood merry-go-round. Anyone can catch the brass ring, or the brass ring can catch anyone.
21st Precinct, a factual account of the way the police work in the world's largest city, is presented with the official cooperation of the Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, an organization of more than 20,000 members of the Police Department, City of New York. Everett Sloan in the role of Captain Kennelly, Ken Lynch as Lieutenant King. Featured in tonight's cast were Elspeth Eric, Mandel Kramer, Wendell Holmes, Bill Smith, and Lawson Zerbe. Written and directed by Stanley Niss. Produced for CBS Radio by John Ives. Art Hannah speaking.